I'm delighted to say this evening I am talking to a man who an awful lot of Bury fans have got an awful lot of time for, as we saw at the Legends game at Radcliffe. Please welcome Lee Bracey. Lee, great to talk to you.
And you, James, nice to see you.
Yeah, you too. Good day today? Had a good day? Been working?
No, I've actually been off today, but it's my first day off for a while. So I've done very little today, to be honest, just totally chilled out.
Well, a lot of Bury fans know what you're doing at the moment, and we'll come on to that later on in the interview. Let's talk about football while we're here. So you joined Bury in the autumn of 1993 after Gary Kelly got injured at Bolton, and after you'd been relegated from the Football League with Halifax the previous May. Was it a relief to get back into the league?
Yeah, obviously it was a massive disappointment to get relegated with Halifax. I did enjoy it there. It was a good bunch of lads, and you know they're same as any club in the lower divisions. Really, they've got a hardcore following. So it was very sad, but yes, it was a relief to get back into the league. Because obviously, any professional wants to be playing league football. So I actually spoke to Mike Walsh in the summer because Gary Kelly was out of contract, I believe, and he hadn't signed a new contract. So it looked like I was going to come to Bury anyway. But then the deal fell through. I think Gary signed a contract, and Mike Walsh contacted me and said, "Listen, Gary signed. That was the end of it." So I actually started the season for Halifax, playing against Kettering Town in the conference. And then Gary got injured against Bolton in the Cup, and the deal was back on. So Mike Walsh phoned me, and that was it. That's how I ended up coming to Bury.
And what did you make of the club when you joined? You know, your new teammates and everything.
I actually knew a couple of them. I knew Alan Neal from my time at Swansea. I knew Ronnie Morgier from when he was at Charlton and Fulham, and I was a youngster at West Ham at the time. And I knew Roger Stanislaus from Arsenal. I'd actually trained with Fulham for a bit when I left West Ham, which is when I met Ronnie. But it was just a London connection anyway. And one of the last games of the season for Halifax, we actually played at Gig Lane, and we actually beat Bury that day. Yeah, we actually, and it was a massive win for us at the time because it still gave us a chance of staying up. But there was work being done at the ground at Gig Lane, and a few of us said, you know, you'd fancy playing here week in, week out. It's going to be a nice stadium, and so it's turned out.
As you and Chris joined, yeah, around about the same time, didn't you?
I think I joined a bit before Chris. Mike Walsh asked me what Chris was like, and I think he had a couple of options actually. I think Preston was one of them. I remember him telling me that John Beck actually took him out on the football pitch at Preston in his suit and was making him take throw-ins to see how far he could throw it, and making him kick a dead ball, make see how far he could kick it. Obviously, hopefully, I had a bit of influence in that, and he had a chat with Chris, and he came to Bury and went on to do very well for them.
You did very well for us there, yeah, thank you. So that first season, 93-94, what are your memories of it? Because you had some really good games, didn't you? I mean, there's one in particular I always remember, Doncaster away. David Adacola scored 2 as we won 3-1, but you saved 2 penalties that afternoon.
I did. Doncaster actually is one of them grounds. It's a lucky ground for me. I've never lost at Doncaster, and it was one of the worst grounds to play at. I thought it was one of the ones I didn't really. I wouldn't say I didn't enjoy it, but it was I found it one of the worst stadiums. It always seemed cold. The fans seemed a long way from the pitch, but like I say, it's a lucky ground for me. And that particular day, it was really lucky for me. I saved 2 penalties. Excuse me. And the second one, a good friend of mine actually took it. A guy called Clive Freeman, who I was at Swansea with, so that was even more enjoyable.
Unfortunately, though, we did fall away a bit that season, didn't we? And we ended up finishing 13th.
It was frustrating because I genuinely thought we had a chance of at least the playoffs. When you look back, when you think of the players and the squad we had, perhaps we should have done. But I think we missed quite a few chances in the last few games, and like you say, we fell away. So it was a disappointing end, really. But the seeds were sown, I think, for the future.
Yeah, and then the summer in 1994, were you disappointed that Gary Kelly did come back and took the #1 shirt?
I was very disappointed because I'd actually had quite a decent season in my first season at Bury. And I can't remember who we were playing. We were playing a pre-season friendly. And the team sheet went up and Gary was playing. And we'd not even seen him at training. He wasn't even training with Bury. And I remember a few of the lads come and say to me, said, it's out of order, that league. And to say I was disappointed is a bit of an understatement, really. A little bit of anger as well, really, because I'd done quite well and got replaced. And no one gave me an explanation, and I wasn't even replaced by someone training with us.
Yeah. Did you get on with him?
I did.
When he was.
I got on very well with Gary. I mean, I think as goalkeepers, yes, there is that competitive edge. You try. Obviously, there's only one place, but you train together. So I think you have to get on. But that was the case with Gary.
You did still make a number of appearances that season, and you were obviously the regular understudy when he didn't play. One game in particular we just touched on before the interview started, Crewe in the FA Cup away.
Yes, I think he got sent off a couple of times and a couple of injuries throughout the season. So I did have the odd game every now and again, but that particular game, I'm sure it was that one against Crewe, I made the best save I've ever made for Bury. It was like a bullet header from about 6 yards. It was going in the top left-hand corner, and I managed to get my hand to it and see it over the bar. And we went on to win the game, and we were under quite a bit of pressure at that time, and so it was a really good result.
And of course, you were a very important squad member, being the reserve keeper, and that meant that you took a place to go to Wembley when somebody like Lenny John Rose didn't, who wasn't as important at that time. What was Wembley like from a perspective of a squad member?
Great to be there. Obviously, it was Bury's first time at Wembley, so from that point of view, it was fantastic. Even when you're a sub, you still don't feel part of it sometimes. I felt like I was on the periphery, really. I've got to be honest, I wasn't over impressed with the stadium at that point. It was quite old, and obviously enjoy the history of it all and that sort of thing. And I probably enjoyed going to Wembley the day before the actual game more than the actual game, because all the lads were buzzing at that point. We had to walk around the stadium and be full of anticipation, waiting for the game the next day, and we just didn't turn up on the day. So it was very disappointing. And obviously even more disappointing not to play, but hey ho.
The following season, Gary had a number of injuries and suspensions again, and you were the second choice keeper. How do you feel about some of the games towards the end of the season where we might have perhaps strengthened our position at the top of or near the top of the table, but we didn't? Games like Darlington and Exeter away towards the end of the season.
Darlington, we got a complete shoe-in. I don't know what happened that day, because we was actually going quite well up till that point, and it was between us and Darlington really for the last playoff spot, I think. And so that was quite a big game. And up until then, we were going quite well. We'd had a win at Scarborough, we'd had a win at Scunthorpe, we were winning our home games, and then for some reason we got a real thumping that day. And it was disappointing. Even if we got a draw there, that could have been enough. But they give us a real lesson that day. And then the Exeter game, I think the point there would have got us up, if I remember rightly. And unfortunately, I made a bit of a mistake. I tried to catch something that I should have punched. I think it led to a draw rather than the win, and then it was all down to the last game of the season. But it shouldn't have gone to the last game really. We could have put it to bed before that.
Yeah, and again, you were on the bench for the last game of the season against Cardiff.
I wasn't on the bench. I was for that game.
Sorry.
We didn't have goalkeepers on the bench then, but that was probably my lowest point in football, if I'm being honest. I think it was very harsh to leave me out because I'd actually been playing quite well. I didn't have a bad game at Darlington, and to leave me out for that last game and to miss out on all the celebrations at the end was devastating. Delighted with the result, delighted that we got promotion, and I was very relieved. But part of me felt like I'd missed out, and like I said, that was one of my lowest points in football.
And did that carry on through when we signed Dean Kiley as well?
I was actually surprised when we signed Dean Kiley because I knew Gary was out of contract. I had a year left on my contract, and I just assumed it would be me and Gary fighting it out again. Two experienced keepers. We've just got promoted. The last person in the world I thought we'd sign as a goalkeeper. Obviously, Gary went to Oldham, and then when we did sign a goalkeeper, I didn't think it'd be someone the calibre of Dean Kiley. With Gary, I didn't think there was a lot between us, if I'm being honest. But Dino was something special, and so it proved. That said, the first game we played, I'd played every pre-season game that season as well. And I thought I was going to start the season, and Dino turned up the day of the game. But the first game against Brentford, I can't remember if it was a clearance from the goalkeeper or a centre half. He'd come out to catch it, it just bounced over his head, and I thought he's not that good. And that was the only thing he ever did wrong.
In 3 years at Bury.
Yeah, absolutely superb.
That did mean that you'd made your last appearance for Bury then, didn't it? Because
it did, unfortunately. Yeah, apart from friendlies, like I say, that pre-season, it did, and I ended up going on loan to Ipswich.
I mean, you did. You were there on the day we won the championship. You're on the picture that's on the cover of the book. Was it a buzz to be there for that?
It was, again, you feel like you're on the periphery. I'd like to think I kept Dino on his toes, but he was. I think he'd have played that well anyway without me there. As all players want to play football, and as much the lads were great, and you do feel part of the squad, but you can't beat playing. And I don't really feel like I contributed too much to that season.
So the move to Ipswich, then you told me when I interviewed you for the book that you were doing some decorating at home at the time when you got the call off Stan. What happened there?
No, I'd gone on loan. I was excuse me. I was actually in the shower after a training session at Bury, and I think it was Cliff Roberts came in and said to me, "The gaffer wants to see you in the office." So all right, okay. I thought, what have I done wrong? So anyway, I went to see Stan. He said, "Do you fancy going on loan?" And I said, "Well, if I'm not playing here, I might as well. It gets me game time and that sort of thing." And I was expecting Scarborough or Scunthorpe or something like that. And I said, "Where am I going?" He said, "Ipswich." I'm like, "Ipswich?" Oh, crikey. They was a division higher than us at the time, and going for the playoffs. They were going well for, had a chance of getting in the Premier League. So it was right out of the blue, really. I said, "Well, yeah, if that's all right with you, I'll go." He said, "Well, I'm actually thinking about playing you on Saturday." Because actually Dino had let a bad one in at Stockport away. It wasn't that bad, but I thought, is he being serious here? I said, "Well, if I'm going to play here, I'll stay here." He said, "Right, we'll let you go to Ipswich for a month, but you've got to phone me every single day." So I had to speak to Stan every single day. So I went for a month, and Ipswich wanted me to stay beyond that, but Bury were obviously going for promotion, and we had two vital games left, Watford and Luton, and he called me back for them games, which that was absolutely fine by me. I don't think Craig Forrest was too happy because he'd gone on loan from Ipswich to Chelsea, and Chelsea wanted to sign him. Me coming back to Bury meant he had to go back to Ipswich. So I don't think he was overjoyed, but obviously I came back for the Luton and Watford games, and while I was back, I cut my hand open decorating. I had to have some stitches in my finger and my hand. And I don't know if you know, do you remember Dr. Tacker?
Yes, I do, yeah.
It was his son that gave me my stitches. and he made sure that they were blue stitches as well, very blue. So, yeah, I got injured at home. But I could have played in the games if needed. But yeah, I had to phone Stan and tell him I'd cut my hand open.
I don't envy you having to do that, no.
No, it wasn't much fun.
And then that summer in 1997, you left Bury permanently. You went to Ipswich. Was it a permanent deal, a year-long deal, or 2 years?
2 years, signed a 2-year contract at Ipswich. As I said, I'd been on loan for a month first, the season before. Came back, did all the pre-season with Bury, and I was actually flying. I was really fit, and I was playing quite well. And then we had a pre-season game against Ramsbottom, and Sam Ellis said to me, he says, "Look, I'm not telling you what's going on, but you're only playing the first half. Don't get injured." So I thought something going on here. And whilst we was down in Exeter pre-season training, a couple of lads were saying, "Oh, the gaffer's on the phone to Ipswich." And whether he was or not, I don't know. Whether they were just trying to wind me up or whatever. But yeah, I signed for Ipswich a week before the season started.
And how long did you spend at Ipswich, and where did you go after that?
2 years at Ipswich, and then from there, they offered me another year's contract. But again, I wanted to play football. I'd had 2 years on the bench there. Absolutely loved the club, but at the end of the day, you can't beat playing. And I went to Hull City from there.
And is that where you ended your professional career?
It was, yes. Again, that was disappointed the way it ended at Hull. I was coming towards the end of my career anyway. I sort of wanted to go out on a bit of a high, if you like. Started off really well. We actually played Bury in a pre-season game, and I was actually playing quite well. But then I got sent off a couple of times, give away a couple of penalties, and it all went horribly wrong. Then the club went into administration, and then just as I started to get going again, the next season, Brian Little came in and decided he wanted to do all his own players, which isn't unusual when you get a new manager. But I wasn't particularly happy with the way he went about it. He got his assistant manager to tell me that I wouldn't be playing in the game at Barnet. The assistant manager again told me that the chairman wanted a meeting with me, but Brian Little didn't speak to me once.
Right. That's no.
Which was, I found it, like I said, the fact that he wanted his own players, that's part and parcel of being in football. But I thought he'd have done the talking himself.
Yeah.
And he made me travel from Burnley every day even when I was playing reserve team games and stuff like that, when some of the games I could have gone direct to, and I just thought it was a little bit harsh, really, because I hadn't done anything wrong. I'd not done anything to upset him. So,
but when you look back on your time at Bury, were they good times?
They were good times. Well, it was a mixed bag, really, for me. There were good times and very good times. It was a great time to be at Bury, as in first Wembley appearance, then excuse me, consecutive promotions. But obviously, I didn't play in a lot for large spells. And like I say, that game against Cardiff, that was a real low point for me. But overall, good times. I've made some good friends there. I still talk to them now. So lifelong friends, and I've stayed in the area, really. So I must have enjoyed it.
Yeah. So that brings us on to what do you? I mean, a lot of fans do know what you do now, but just for confirmation,
I'm a police officer now.
Yeah.
I'm trying to catch criminals now instead of a ball.
Yeah, I remember seeing you outside gig before one game. I think it might have been against Rochdale. I think GMP had drafted a few more officers in, and there you were. There's Lee Bracey.
I've actually placed a few games involving Bury. I actually did what's called an evidence and gathering course, which involved filming. And you go, they send you to a football match on a Saturday, and I got Bury against Peterborough, I think it was. So I was filming that game to practice using our equipment and stuff like that. I was there for Bury's last game, unfortunately, in the league when they got promotion. I think it was against Port Vale.
Yes, it was.
Last game of the season. I placed that one, and actually got a mention on the tannoy. Brian White said that I was outside if anyone wanted to say hello. So that was quite nice. And I've actually placed there a few times. Yes, in a lot of old faces.
I'm glad. I mean, I always, obviously, you know that I think the club was at the heart of pretty much everything I did. And to hear players say that, you know, they made friends then, they enjoyed the camaraderie that we saw on the pitch, you know, when Bury scored was reflected off the pitch. It's always really nice to hear that when you think about, you know, I'm sure some of the players could be a right royal pain in the backside sometimes. I'm not thinking of anyone in particular there, apart from Mr. Rigby, obviously. But I'm sure it's always really nice to hear. Yeah,
it was brilliant. The relationship the players had with the fans and the staff there, it was superb. I've not. It was a little bit like that at Swansea, but other than that, I've probably not really known anything like it. I mean, even once years after I finished playing for Bury, I'd nip in and see Gordon Sawfleet, I'd nip in and see Jill, and the girls in the office. Even some of the fans now, I'm friends with them on Facebook. As you know, I was quite poorly for a little bit, and the amount of messages I received from supporters and that sort of thing, it was absolutely brilliant. And I'm still in touch with a lot of them now. And the game I played at Radcliffe, the Bury Legends, and that, thoroughly enjoyed it. I couldn't walk for 2 days afterwards, but I didn't want to go home after the game. I could have stayed in that bar for hours and hours. But yeah, it's brilliant, and it'll always stay with me. It really will.
That's really, really nice to hear, and I think that's a wonderful place to leave it. Thank you very much for your time, Lee.
You're very welcome, James. You take care.
Cheers, mate.